Welcome to this preview for Windows on the World, live every Sunday, 9:30 p.m. at windowsontheworld.net. And we have a great show tonight. It's a follow-up to our previous shows, the Fact Killers, and our recent show, our recent Sunday show, the Propaganda Channelers, and also the show I did with Jerry Marzinski a couple of days back. And that's available on our YouTube channel, and it'll also be on Odyssey. Everything that we put on Odyssey is our radio shows and also all of our video content. About 530 videos, or probably more now, are on Odyssey. So that's radio shows and our video content. So yeah, go to windowsontheworld.net, have a look at the homepage, and you'll get a link to our Odyssey channel, our Spreaker channel, and also our Discord channel for those who like to engage in conversation and put some information out with the like-minded. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight, really. Our constructive conversation series, which is people talking and putting out information in a fairly palatable and hopefully quite entertaining way, is something that I've been doing over the past couple of weeks, and a lot of people who listen to the show seem to like it, so we're going to carry on doing it. There won't be any repetition or nonsense on there. We do try and keep it nice and fresh. So yeah, hi Bon. Hi. I'm just putting out this for tonight's show, which is going to be live at 9:30 p.m. and the title of that show is in the title of this video. And we're going to be following it up. I'm going to be looking at how delusion works. We've covered this with Jerry in our shows about demonic possession, and we've often made the comparison that the media and the constant flow of propaganda is very much the same as experienced by people who are under influence of external entities, or in other words, being possessed. The media does exactly the same thing. So we're going to be talking about discernment, how to cultivate discernment, because so many people don't seem to have any. It's really strange. I've watched this over and over again over the years. People will be hoodwinked in the same ways over and over and over again. It's so repetitious that one would have thought that lessons would be learned, but they don't seem to. And I think it's gotten worse with social media and people fighting for attention on there, and the cult of personality, which is basically the cult of people with no personality. And that's a big part of it. But awareness is not an easy thing to cultivate, especially at the present time. And this focus on being able to discern what is around you is of paramount importance. And I think it will be the key to mentally and physically surviving what is going to happen over the next couple of years. Why do the same deceptions work again and again? I made a note of this because of a lack of focus on the simple concepts used, which manipulate people over and over and over again. So in tonight's show, live at 9:30 p.m. at windowsontheworld.net, on the live shows page, all of our shows end up on the live shows page, which is an archive of every radio show we've ever done at windowsontheworld.net. We're going to be talking about that, and I'm going to be following on from the last couple of shows that we've been doing and tying it together with the live stream we did with Jerry Marzinski the other night. You can catch all of our shows with Jerry in, well, it's like an article really on the homepage, and it's in the latest shows section. And there's 6 or 7 shows there with Jerry, which go right back to when we started talking, which goes back to about 2015, I think. But our latest one with Jerry is on the homepage at windowsontheworld.net, along with our constructive conversations, and everything will end up on Odyssey. So please subscribe on Odyssey. All you have to do is go to the homepage at windowsontheworld.net. We get no engagement on Facebook. So if you manage to see this on Facebook, you're quite lucky, or maybe it's just a coincidence. We're going to be talking about that as well, what that is really about, because a lot of this all comes down to your own awareness. And once we strip away deception, things like New Age delusionism, egocentric narcissism, which is basically what that's about, and these deceptions, which are always there and always promoted by remedy gurus, then something happens and discernment and real awareness of what's going on kicks in. Sounds a bit abstract, but that's generally where I'm going with tonight's show. I've got some really good examples, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of things, including the rituals of occult Freemasonry and how that ties in to basically indoctrination. And the indoctrination is at every level. And people who believe they're not indoctrinated are also indoctrinated. So how does this work? Well, it works again with being able to discern and be aware. And also, it's all about learning. It's about experience. That's why in ancient times, there was a real priest class on the planet. Now, what we have is globalist billionaires who are in arrested development in the respect that they think that a totalitarian control system is the best way of dealing with things under fake environmentalism and virtue signaling, which of course entraps and enslaves people into being do-gooders for the new cause, which is basically depopulation. So we've covered all of these angles on shows over the years, and I will continue to put out everything or anything I think is relevant, because this is a lifelong research project that I'm just sharing and putting out there. Everything on the website has been tried and tested. Everything that I put out is researched. So it's fact, and also it's put over in a way which is non-sensational, but just deals with the matter in hand, which is the only way to actually make things progress. And again, it's all about awareness. So we're going to be talking about that. Thanks, Bonbon. It was a great show with Jerry. Yes, this is quite a spontaneous early stream just to tell you about the show tonight. So 9:30 p.m. this Sunday and every Sunday, windowsontheworld.net on the live shows page. Check out the huge archive and the links on the homepage, and we'll carry on doing it. Also, I've got several interviews that I've recorded over the last week, which will be put out over the coming week, and they will probably be on Odyssey. Some of them will then go to radio shows in the radio shows archive section, as did our show before last with Jerry. So that last show I did with Jerry Marzinski will be also available as an audio download, because people seem to like those. I was hoping to hear some of those poems, Mark. Yeah, I'm going to do that. We're going to do an extra show. Tony's referring to the poems of a paranoid schizophrenic who committed a brutal murder, who's now in prison for life. And these poems were shared with me, and myself and Jerry have also spoken with the lady who was the mother of this person and supplied these poems. They're very dark, and what they actually reveal is a person who's actually undergoing a form of possession, in the respect that they are being slowly taken over. And we talked about this on the previous show with Jerry, which was in the archive now, actually, at windowsontheworld.net homepage. It's still on our YouTube channel, but it will be transferred to Odyssey. Sometimes when we go live, the live streams do not get uploaded to Odyssey automatically. I don't know why, because they should. Okay, audio dead. Wait a minute. Let's have a look. Camera mic, yes. Let's have a look at the audio. Yeah, 1, 2. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I think we've got audio. No, the audio's not dead. The audio's working. I thought it was, because otherwise people wouldn't be interacting on here. I thought I'd seen through most of the deception, but I'm now learning about new layers of it. Yes, that's very true. I mean, I think the most gullible people are those who are getting very excited that they've just woken up to the grand conspiracy. Well, I've been looking into it for over 20 years, and there's layers and layers of deception, and most people are very gullible, especially Westerners. They can be very gullible to propaganda and deception, and most of it comes from the state. For instance, in the Daily Mail today, there was an expose of certain people who they're saying are leading the anti-vaxxer movement. Those people are all basically useful idiots of the state, and are leading people nowhere. This is just a fact, because if they weren't leading people nowhere, if they were credible, they wouldn't be in the Daily Mail. That is something people seem to have a problem learning, especially people who are over-enthusiastic, gullible, and extraordinarily naive. Yeah. So we're going to be doing quite a lot of that. And over the next few weeks, as I say, plenty more stuff that I've got to put out, and interesting stuff as well. People are coming to me with interesting stories, which I'm going to put out. We've got a great one about the NHS, about somebody who was in a coma and they woke up in times of COVID. Can you imagine the shock of that, and how things had changed in the hospital and what really was happening in the hospital during the TikTok era? Most people will realize that it was not what was presented. So yeah, that's great. Many layers indeed. So I'll be live at 9:30 p.m. UK time on windowsontheworld.net. Go to the live shows page. It's all there on the home page, and we go out live there, and we have a chat box in the live shows page, so you can get involved in that. You've been bang in for decades. Thank you, Emma. That's great, because I actually look at how long I've been doing this, and sometimes I think, is it a waste of time? Well, actually, no, it's not, because it's really worked. But the problem, and the only problem, is that you get a small audience if you're putting out really good quality information. That's just a fact. The people who come along are promoted and waffle and disappear are numerous and many over the years, but I've always survived and surpassed all of those people, because they're not in it for the same reason. The reason I do this is to put out information. It's a lifelong research project which I started a very long time ago, and is a kind of useful way of putting it out through these channels. It's a useful way of doing it. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's not quite 28 days later. Well, that was a zombie film, wasn't it? I think that's what you mean. But 28 days is very important anyway, isn't it, legally? So that brings to mind Common Law Malcolm. I'm going to have some more Common Law Malcolm stuff coming out soon. And there's going to be a little bit of a comedy promotion of Common Law Malcolm. And most people who can see through the naivety and stupidity of people banging on about Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights and all the rest of it will find it extremely amusing. And those who don't will probably find it very credible and real, which is what the word irony was invented for. Yes, not just information, facts, and evidence. That's it. That's the whole point. You see, if you can't back up your argument, then you have no argument. And I put that to this lawyer who's actually been promoted in the Daily Mail as one of the anti-vaxxers, which of course she's just a gatekeeper. And I pointed out the faults in her argument, and she came back and said, I'm a lawyer, I'm this, that, and the other. Well, lawyers are often wrong. In fact, lawyers, in my experience, are wrong a lot of the time. Remember also that in 55.5% of all examined cases by a Majesty's Inspectorate of Courts and the CPS, it was found that in 55.5% of all examined cases, essential defense evidence had been left out. That means that the defense was considerably weakened, the prosecution was strengthened, therefore many more innocent people are stitched up by the state. And the police help this along. So do the CPS, who obviously only really work for the prosecution. The CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, will oppose you if you are a defendant. They will do anything they can not to give you the evidence that you are legally entitled to. These are just facts. So when people go on about being lawyers, there's nothing very honourable about that. It just means that you've studied statute and the application of law in certain circumstances for several years. Doesn't mean you're any good at it, and it doesn't mean you know actually how best to apply it. Most lawyers don't know how best to apply the law because they don't do enough research, they don't have enough case law history. And often when they do use case law, as I mentioned to this lawyer who's being promoted, it's often wrong, as her case law was wrong, because she was saying that you could refuse mandatory vaccinations on the back of somebody who had case law made for their case while they were incarcerated in Broadmoor Mental Institution, which is an NHS hospital. Well, I'm afraid that's different, because you can be legally injected in those institutions with depot injections if you are deemed to be a threat to yourself or others. And once you're in there, you are deemed to be a threat to yourself and others. So these lame arguments are put out there by lazy lawyers or people who just want to mislead you. This person was also talking about the Magna Carta. No, I'm afraid that's not any good either. We're in a technocratic system. There is now no rule of law. There's been no proper rule of law for many, many years. And when we look into the actual laws, the laws that were created over the last 1,000 years, we can see in the last 200 years where things started to go wrong. But things have escalated massively in the communitarian system. The community is deemed to be the entity which is virtuous. If you are an individual, you have no individual rights in the communitarian system. It's all about collectivism and collective rights. Well, the collective rights of what? The collective rights of an imagined or created community. The idea of community is basically the state new system of totalitarianism. That is what they're calling community. Anything outside it is to be demonized. You still have the steam. You've been trying your hardest for so long to get the word out. What keeps you going, says Emma. What keeps me going? Well, actually, I feel a bit of a duty to do this now, because I do a show every Sunday. I've done 3 or 4 live streams this week, and I am really tired tonight. But I always put that Sunday show out because it's something I should be doing. It keeps me focused and people like it. Also, if you start slacking, then people will start dropping off and losing interest. And I like the engagement from the people who do engage with what I've been doing. That's why I set up this Discord group. We may not have a massive audience, but I think we have the best audience in the UK. The most discerning people listen to this show. It's not for the narcissists and the wannabes who want to listen to the latest candy floss and waffle or fake remedies. It's not for those people. It never was. So that's why I do it, really. Yeah. Being also able to have a dark sense of humor. Well, I think you need a dark sense of humor in these times, don't you? Some really good interviews and discussions the last few months. Thank you, Nick. That's the reason I do it, you see, because I decided a long time ago just to stick to this. I'm completely ostracized by most of the alternative media because they don't want to give anyone any credit for things that they are bandying around themselves, or they are prone to calling everyone outside their own little controlled group as shill, you see. That's another thing, which is often something they don't even understand. I mean, the whole of the way the intelligence system works, I've looked into for many years. I find it fascinating, but most of them are still led by the intelligence community, shall we say. So all of those who go on, these ones are shills and those ones are shills, well, they're the ones who are usually being led by the actual real ones, you know, shills, that is. And somebody said that and put it into a comment, which I read out in one of the shows. I think it was in the Fact Killers. Did several shows called the Fact Killers. Yeah, that's great. It's nice to recharge my sanity each week listening here. Well, if this is good for people's mental health, then that's great, because a lot of the New Agers think it's bad for their mental health because it contains facts, and we are in a post-truth world now. So people who like facts and solutions, because you can't have solutions unless you've got the facts. It's impossible, and you have to understand the system that you're operating in, which is why it took so long to get into this, because it was always confusing to me that I didn't have the bigger picture. So I needed to put that together in order to know how it works, because I want to learn how it works before I leave the planet. And that's one of the reasons why I think the shows are important, because once you grasp this and the nature of global governance and basically the arrested development of the leaders, then a lot of it falls into place. But if you've just got little strands of information, a lot of people have just sort of, as they say, woken up in the COVID era. Well, it's a bit late, really, because unless you've got a background, you're going to be steered into the predicted outcomes of the state, which most of them obviously are. But it doesn't take that many intelligent people to actually affect change, the C word. And that has always been the case over history. But a lot of this is about studying. So I suppose the idea of these shows is to create a real priest class on the planet, people who can keep learning, and they will have their own specialized knowledge, which I don't have. And they will become part of a group of new thinkers, because we are in need of that at the moment. And that is one thing that keeps coming up. People are fed up of dealing with the banal, arrested development, hopium addicted, candy floss people who are around them. So yeah, join us at 9:30 p.m. UK time for Windows on the World this Sunday and every Sunday. Cider Guy, how many other so-called truthers are using the term communitarianism? That's a very good point, actually. Nobody I know. You were using it years ago, Mark. Yeah, I was around 2013, 2014. I started using the term communitarianism. Also the hive mind. It's hive mind collectivism, really, but it is a system. Not many people in the so-called truth movement know anything about Amitai Etzioni, who's basically the main proponent of communitarianism, along with his son. People don't know this stuff. They talk in childlike ways about the control system. And a lot of the people who've actually been promoted in the so-called alternative media are the ones who lead them nowhere and lead them into these dead ends, because their information is just as banal and it's just as propaganda orientated as what comes out of the mainstream. We've been talking about that tonight. That's what we're going to be talking about, the way that the propaganda is basically working exactly the same way as demonic entities do. I think YouTube, hi Mark, I sent you a video in the comments earlier, but I think YouTube moved it. It seems they tried this on with the swine flu. Yes, the 2009 expose of swine flu, Rezak, that's very true. Now, that video is still available on YouTube, and that shows you how the precursor to COVID really was not that long ago. But people have extremely short memories. Again, there's the document A Safer Future, which came out in 2007, which basically described how global health security would be the driver of the new system. John, hi Mark, I'm relatively new to your wisdom. Oh, that's very nice of you to say so, John. It's very helpful. I use your Spreaker channel too, a great resource. Well, that's what I do it for, really, John. That's why I keep saying it's a bit like an encyclopedia. It all links up. Once you get this stuff, you get it. And often repetition is the key. You need a bit of repetition in there, but you need to be able to relate it to different issues. So unless you can tie these issues together in the way that these people have done it, then it's impossible to make sense of the world at all. And there's all these sort of gatekeeper channels trying to make sense of the world. Well, you can make sense of the world if you understand how it's run. We can't know every single detail about it, but what we can know is the general system. Everything works to a system, a concept of management. So the concept of management and the management of human resources on the planet is all these people are doing. They want to get rid of 70%. That's what they're doing now. They want 70% population reduction. It's all written down. I've talked about it so many times, and there's nothing to it. And most people out there, especially the yuppies who are living in these now concentration camp type Agenda 21 smart gulags, will say, well, what's wrong with that? They want more surveillance, not less. That's the whole point, that the global health security system wants the public to demand more and more security, meaning surveillance, being locked down forever. Have you checked out two guys from Gnostic Takeover YouTube channel? I think you might find them interesting. I'll have a look at that. Yeah. No one really talks about the increasing number of 200-mile lines in the sky. Well, I was talking about it, actually. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I was talking about it in 2010, and I studied the document which came out, which was called The Regulation of Geoengineering. I also looked for every single patent for geoengineering I could find, and they're all in a show that I did on the People's Voice in 2013 called Chemtrails, which is not the best way to describe geoengineering, as you can use solar radiation management. You can use several things. We've talked about it a lot. No, the point is this, that unless you know what you're talking about with geoengineering, then you sound a bit like a loony to those who you may be trying to convince, because unless you can show them the documentation and what it's for, then to a lot of people, it's a conspiracy theory. Now, this brings us on to something very important, because the shows that we did on geoengineering were very in-depth. I also attended a conference where David Keith, the geoengineer, was there at Oxford University, and it was at the Oxford Debating Society, and they were debating solar radiation management. This is about 8 or 9 years ago, and we went up there and asked questions. And David Keith did say that what they were going to do was spray sulfur dioxide to help with solar dimming. So these procedures have been going on a long time, and they go back about 100 years. But unless people are specific in what they're talking about, then the subject is just full of disinformation. And that is the problem with it. In particular, who I am not named was putting out good information. Now they are new age shows and interview new age gurus, complete nonsensical garbage, no facts. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because all this hopium and people thinking that they've manifested their dinners is a real issue, because it's spread like wildfire. Of course, the people who are in this new age delusion do not know it's a delusion, because they don't know that it was sold to them by people like Robert Mueller in the 70s. We've done loads of shows on that, the cult of Gaia, where Robert Mueller was talking to the earth and the earth was talking back, saying there's too many people on it. And basically, the whole New Age movement, the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in California, was all promoted by the United Nations. So basically, those who are acquiescing and talking this deluded hopium are basically just agents of the new system. And they won't have that. They think that's negative when you say that, you see. So the system does work. It's quite clever. It's very clever stuff, isn't it? The Rape of the Mind. Yeah, it's a good title, isn't it? Will help you understand how people's minds have been twisted. Yes, well, we've been trying to do that for a long time. And unfortunately, a lot of people's minds have been twisted. Have you seen the floods earlier this year in Saudi Arabia from the Greening Desert Project? No, but I've heard about it. That's one of those things that kind of fleetingly was passing me by. But I do know about those projects. Those projects have been going on for years. Of course, when you look at places like Saudi Arabia, they obviously do have cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is necessary for rain in certain places. So geoengineering is a massive subject. And that's why when people say chemtrails, I say, no, can't say that, undermines the issue. New Age bollocks, close my New Age bollocks. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's the only thing that's keeping me going here on this stream is these comments, by the way, because I've got quite a short show tonight to put out. But it's always good fun to read these comments. So yeah, do look at the archive, look at what we've been doing the last few days. I've got loads of stuff to put up, and yeah, just keep supporting the show if you can. Support us however you can, and I'll keep doing it. So that's it for now. What's that? What does geoengineering do to the atmosphere? Well, we'll look it up. It depends what sort of geoengineering. I mean, there's loads of different types. That's what I've been saying for the past 10 minutes. It's not good, because if they're using sulfur dioxide, it's obviously not a good idea. But it's a fairly unregulated technology in actual fact. Yeah. So there you go. I already knew these characters were gatekeepers, but the extent of it is something. Yes, that's exactly it, Cider Guy. That's why I've pulled away from all alternative media, because most of it, and even if people are genuine in there, they're infiltrated by people who are just talking waste of time nonsense, and there's no time to waste. Weather systems are being controlled. Well, of course they are, but it depends on how much they're being controlled, because the weather system of the Earth is uncontrollable, but it's controllable at a local level in certain circumstances. And I think that's what they were saying at this conference in Oxford years ago. So it's a fantastically interesting. We talked about it the other night. We talked about HARP stations. We talked about a lot of this stuff on our stream the other night. Spraying lithium, which is a pacifier. Yes, of course. Charlie Ward says we're all going to be rich soon. Oh, that's all right then. Nothing to worry about. Might as well stop doing these shows then. No time to waste. That's exactly right. So I'm not going to waste any more time. And even though this is really enjoyable. So great. Yeah, good comments as well. Thanks a lot, everybody. And do tune in at 9:30 p.m. UK time this Sunday and every Sunday. windowsontheworld.net on the live shows page, and check out our live streams during the week, and also our Odyssey channel. All links on the homepage at windowsontheworld.net. Have your hair tested. I'll do that first thing in the morning. Will there be a global religion? Yes. Well, we've talked about that many times, and most of the priesthood on the planet, the priesthood who have been selected, by the way, are enabling that, including, of course, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and the Pope, and pretty much everyone in the Universal Church. Yes. Great. Okay. My toupee was level of the charts. I don't know what that means. Will there be a global religion? Yes, that's what they want. The cult of Gaia. That's what it's all about. And we've covered it on many shows. Go back in the archive and have a, if you want to know about the global religion, look at all our UN stuff in the archive, the cult of Gaia. Maurice Strong, who basically brought in the climate change agenda, was a great proponent of the New Age religion. With his wife Hannah, they had events with world leaders at their 200,000 acre ranch. And Maurice Strong tried to privatize the water under his ranch. Yeah, he was a real environmentalist at home. Not really. He was a capitalist, but basically portraying himself as a communitarian or communist. I like that one. Annabella Echo, all those little emoticons and pictures. Great. Sabbateans. Yeah, we covered all that as well. Sabbatean Frankie, Sabbatai Zevi, Jacob Frank. There are still followers of those people walking the earth, and they are quite influential still. Basically, the people who think that if you bring enough chaos onto the earth, God will intervene and their God's chosen people will be saved, whoever they are. People believe all sorts of stuff. Yeah, the Sabbatean thing. I'm actually working through a great book at the moment called Pawns in the Game, which was written in 1954 by Guy William Carr. And it really does tie together a lot of stuff that other researchers have tried to tie together over the years. And it's a great book. All the information is actually out there. That's the thing. You should get into the biblical seven seals. Yeah, the seven seals. That is interesting. The seven churches and the seven seals. Hope you're all enjoying the new normal. At least it's never boring. It's true though, isn't it? It's just like they're bringing in new trauma every day, new gaslighting every day, but it's always the same thing. It's always done with threats and menaces and lies. Baffles me how so few are interested in these deeper issues. Absolutely true, Gandalf, but I'm only interested in the deeper issues. The surface and the nonsense and the candy floss doesn't interest me at all. Never a dull day. Well, there isn't at the moment, is there? Baffles me how few are interested. Yeah, I like that. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody, and I'll see you at 9:30 p.m. UK time, winnersontheworld.net. Speak to you soon.